Welcome to Seen and Heard podcast, where everyone should be seen and heard. And welcome back, Miss Kittis. I'm so glad to see you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank
Hi.
you.
I'm
Thank you.
excited about these topics that we're going to discuss tonight. Among reparations, the anti-black war against Black Americans that we're seeing. I'm going to play a video to open us up, and then we're going to discuss on the other side of this your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Sure.
Now, I know a lot of people are going to think that this is actually progressive, helpful, and maybe movement in the right direction for rights, or going against the whole anti-blackness movement, but I don't. For one reason, because a monument literally does nothing for Black people. It does not help us in any way. Now, basically what they're saying is he's going to sign this monument, it's a proclamation that is going to honor Emmett Till and his mother. It's going to be a monument. But how does that help the anti-blackness movement that is so strong and stark in this country? I think if he really wanted to actually help Black people, why not sign an executive order that forces that if a person or even just a non-Black person presses charges, calls the police on Black people for just existing and they're lying about it, why not say if your local or state government isn't going to do anything about it, call the FBI and we will press charges against them. Also, why not pressure these states that if you do not prosecute these people who call the police and lie and make these false claims that Black people are doing something to them, why not say if you don't start pressing charges against these people, then we will withhold the federal funds. That will actually help Black people. That will stop these individuals from calling the police and lying on us. You need to press charges against them. And so if Biden wants to really help this anti-blackness movement that is stark, that is strong in this country, fuck a monument, because that doesn't help Black people. The Emmett Till bill that would actually help, or executive order that would help, is if you started pressing charges against these people who call and lie, and try to get Black people killed by calling the police on us when we are doing nothing but existing. That is actually something that would help. That would really honor Emmett Till and his mother if you actually put some real effort behind making sure that people cannot continue to call the police and lie on us. Not a monument. How about a law? How about an executive order? How about withholding funds from these states that don't press charges against these people who call the police on people who look like me for just existing? That would actually be something.
And what are your thoughts, Miss Kittis? Mind you, everyone, we are glad that he's acknowledging Emmett Till, but I mean, listen to Black people when we tell you we're not looking for performative, you know, novelties out here.
Hmm. Great question. So I'm happy that the president, actually, I'm surprised also that the president knows his history. So I'm happy that he is recognizing Emmett Till and his mother. I have not seen the, I think it's a proclamation. I haven't seen it, so I don't know how it reads. I would be disappointed if what it says is something that is fluff and has no substance to it.
Mm-hmm.
I would like, if he's going to issue a proclamation, that he actually does put forth the actual facts of what happened, and that Emmett Till did not whistle at her. He had a health condition, and his mother had given him some advice on how to deal with the condition, which was he stuttered, and when he stuttered, he became flustered, and she just said, blow it out. So no one was whistling at some white woman. That's a fact. And if the president is going to issue a proclamation, it would be good if he told the real story for why he's issuing a proclamation. I agree with the sister. I don't see the need for a monument because all that does is it just causes those people to find our monuments and desecrate them. And it's just a tit for tat. You desecrate mine, I desecrate yours. And the worst monuments that there are in this country are the ones in Mount Rushmore, where this country seized the land of our indigenous brothers and sisters and carved out on the mountainside five, as far as I am concerned, racist individuals in this company, and they are paying honor and tribute to them, while the land that is being used is land of our indigenous brothers. But back to the Emmett Till issue, I have to wonder myself why Biden waited until this time in order to do that. And I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that we heard a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago that the lying woman who is responsible for his untimely death just had her ancestral journey. I'm not sure I'm ready to say, kudos to Biden yet. I would have to see the proclamation. There is one thing that is very troubling about what the sister said, and that is withholding federal funding from those states. And I get it. It may be a bit stressful that the crazy cart Karens of the world still enjoy being able to have white privilege and to call the police and tell lies on us. The flip side of that is, if we're honest with each other and ourselves, we all tell a lie here or there. I'm not trivializing what she says because it seems to be very, very important to her that we do something about the crazy cart Karens who lie on us. I got that. But withholding federal funding from those states, I don't see how it benefits Black people. And there is a bill that just got dropped a couple of days after Juneteenth by Congressman Babin from Texas. And it says the very same thing. However, his bill is radical because it says in any state, any entity, any municipality where there is any kind of reparations program that is stood up, all federal funding will be withheld, federal bailouts, any kind of federal support. So what we're doing is what she's recommending and what Babin is doing is pretty much the same thing. We're taking away access to Medicaid. We're taking away access to SNAP benefits. We're taking away access to funding for the public school system because the school system does get a lot of federal funding. We're also, in some way or other, I think, jeopardizing the carceral system. So if the prisons and the jails, etc., get federal funding also, what do you do when that funding no longer comes in? What happens to those systems? What happens to the school system? And for some of us, we live in areas where the educational system is abysmal anyway. And if you're going to take away the federal funding, then what are you left with? So to answer your question about that TikTok, I hear what she says. I agree. Monuments really have no true place. And again, just look at Mount Rushmore if you want to look at monuments that have no true place and how the country actually honors those racist folk that are on that mountainside, but it's on indigenous land. that I'm sure the Native Americans would appreciate having it returned to them. As far as the withholding of federal funds, I, I, I can't, I just can't see how that helps Black people on the one hand. And as far as an executive order is concerned, Joe Biden is not going to issue an executive order for what she's asking for. We've been trying for years to get an executive order for HR 40 to stand up a commission to present remedies for the heinous crimes that have been committed against us as a people, which also are crimes against humanity and the pernicious history of the past 400 years. And all we're asking for is a commission. And the president has yet to do that. And I doubt very seriously that he'll do it in this presidential election year. So hopefully, sorry, I may have rambled on, but hopefully that.
No, thanks for bringing that up because I pulled that up here on the screen here for the listeners and the viewers to see as well. This is HR 40 Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. So we've done our emails. We're still doing our emails and calls to get this executive order on President Biden's desk.
And if I can just say one more thing,
Uh-huh.
um, I think we as people of African descent, we need not be lulled into a false sense of security. Yes, Joe Biden did have a concert on White House lawn, Juneteenth concert. It was not advertised. It was very, very secretive. I know folk who were there, and until today, they've not admitted that they were there. Um, I'm offended that it even took place because days before that, he hosted the Pride, the Pride event, and I'm all for whoever you are, whatever you are. It's fine with me. I can roll with it. But at the Pride event on the White House lawn, and there are pictures to confirm that there were folk running around butt naked. There were folk flashing, breasts and all kinds of body parts. And then you would dare have the Juneteenth concert a couple of days later. For me, the Juneteenth concert, Juneteenth as a day, is a day to reckon with the harm, the injuries, and the pain of all that our ancestors endured for at least 246 years of forced-free labor. And I don't particularly see how I would have hosted such a somber event after the events that preceded the concert. So for me, Joe Biden is he's insulting, he's offensive. A couple of years ago, he gave us Juneteenth as a federal holiday. A couple of years ago, when he did it, it cost taxpayers $825 million. So in the past 2 or 3 years, I'm sure that's up to probably $850 million because it's federal employee benefits. 78% of all federal employees do not look like us. So when you multiply 78% times even $825 million, that's not a holiday that benefits us. Only about 18% of the federal workforce looks like us. Multiply that by $825 million and tell me who comes out on top. Until we stop allowing ourselves to be lulled into a false sense of security with the offensive things that the POTUS is doing, he will always do those things and then, pat himself on the back, go to bed and say, I fooled them again. They're not going to ask for anything else. So thank you.
That's why we need to keep pushing back, and that's why we're going to continue to talk about the reparations and continue behind the scenes what we're doing And I appreciate what you're doing, Miss Kittis, because I'm learning a lot from you. Thank you, thank you. And that as well goes into what's happening in Florida. So Ron DeSantis decides that he wants to redefine our Black history and tell us who we are, and then uh, on top of that, insulting us, saying how slavery benefited Black people or the slaves, or it's just all ridiculous. So let me see, I'm pulling this up. The see back It was illegal in Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi, North Carolina, and Virginia to teach slaves to read. So this goes into saying how he's saying it benefited, blacks. The United States was the only country which had anti-literacy laws. So I'm going to flip this around and share this while I'm reading it so everybody can see. Uh, yeah. Georgia Anti-Literacy Laws by Matilda Beasley. Anti-literacy laws were enacted in Georgia in 1829, which stated, and be it further enacted, that if any slave, Negro, or free person of color, or any white person shall teach any other slave, Negro, or free person of color to read or write either written or printed characters, the said free person of color or slave shall be punished by fine and whipping or fine of whipping at the direction of the court. And if a white person so offending, he, she, or they shall be punished with a fine not exceeding $500 and imprisonment in the common jail at the discretion of the court before whom said offender is tried. Assented to December 22nd, 1829, George R. Gilmer, Governor. I mean, that's just an example of the the benefits that he's saying. What are your thoughts? Have you heard any of the news surrounding DeSantis?
Much to my chagrin, I have heard a lot surrounding Ron DeSantis. So, as far as his movement against educating people of African descent, primarily, I think this started with the need to have an African American advanced placement course in Florida. I think that's what it started with.
Hmm.
And then he went hard and decided, because he's the governor and he's the mighty, mighty white boy, I'll say that, air quoting. He's a mighty, mighty white boy, and this is an IMO, in my opinion, um, that he gets to decide for us, people of African descent, what's best for us. That is the same mindset as during the period of enslavement. They decided what was best for us, and they decided that the ability to read and write and to be able to do math and all those other things were not in our best interest. Why was it not in our best interest? Because then we would be able to understand the layout of the land. Just think about it for a minute. You bring somebody across the mid-Atlantic Ocean and you drop them off in a foreign land. If they could read and write, they could figure out how to maybe get away and maybe even make the journey back to the homeland.
Hmm.
But there's also another piece to this. I believe this with all my heart, that another reason for there to be these anti-literacy movements had more to do with personal entertainment. And what do I mean by that? Well, imagine you bring 600,000 folk from the continent and you drop them off here. Even though at emancipation, those 600,000 proliferated and were 4.5 million. Um, they didn't speak the language. So that made the colonizers feel superior, not because they were dumb, but they presented them as being dumb because their ability to be able to communicate came with a lot of colloquials. It came with a lot of broken language. It came with a lot of broken English, while they struggled to be able to communicate. But the colonizers presented that as, see, I told you they were dumb.
Hmm.
They can't communicate with us. They don't speak the way we speak. They don't speak the Queen's English. We don't, they say them and this and that. Well, they were struggling to try and be able to communicate, because every time they miscommunicated or they didn't understand something, they ran the risk of being the recipient of the cat o' nine lives. They were going to get whipped on their backs. So it has always been something that was supposed to present us in the worst light possible, something to present us as being dumb and stupid and ignorant. But in essence, we should feel really good that they brought us here, we struggled, and we made it, and we figured out all of this craziness with this language where you a word can have two different sets of meanings, and it can be pronounced one way one time and another way another time. And against all odds, we figured all this stuff out. However, let's look at just one more little thing about this anti-literacy nonsense. When we finally were emancipated and with the proper legislative process, were allowed to be able to vote, what was the first thing they did? They hit us with the literacy tests. You had to pass these crazy literacy tests that,
Poll tax.
even before the poll tax, the Louisiana State literacy test is unbelievable. Look it up and see just how crazy and bizarre it is. And you couldn't get not one question wrong. But you were not allowed, nor were your ancestors allowed, to be able to read and or write and count and do any kind of logical analysis. So now you're giving me a literacy test that I am supposed to pass, and I cannot even get one question wrong. And some of it was just absolutely insane. So again, by design, over and over and over, these things keep happening to us. And if we know our history and we forget that history, or if we don't know the history, those are the things that people like Ron DeSantis bank on.
Hmm.
The last thing I'm going to say about this, I think, is the people I know who live in Florida who happen to be of African descent, I send these articles and I say, what are your thoughts? And their response has been, oh, he's crazy. He makes me sick. Okay, that's fine.
What are you
But
gonna? That's heartbreaking to me. That's heartbreaking to hear.
exactly, what is your plan? What's your call to action? What are you going to do? And one thing that I advocate over and over and over. So if that's how the game he wants to play, let him play that game. Why can't we stand up Saturday Academy? Why can't we? I understand people are going to say, well, my child is entitled to a public school education. You're right. Your child is entitled. However, your child needs to be entitled to a quality public school education.
Hmm.
And there are, here in Baltimore City, there are schools where not one student got even 5 points for taking those standardized tests. So if you have a school and nobody gets even 5 points, you should get 5 points just for putting your name on your application.
Mm.
Something is wrong with the system.
Hmm.
And if we don't take control of the educational process, and there are things that can be done for the public to take control. For example, Why aren't we pushing to be members of the curricula review team?
Mhm.
Because there are parents and the public and these and others who look at the curricula, who look at the books that are used to teach the subject matter. And they can say, no, this book it doesn't meet with our expectations. Instead, what we say is, well, my son or my daughter got this book for this class, and there's nobody in there that looks like her, so she or he is disillusioned because they don't want to, read this book because there isn't anybody who looks like them. If you were on the curricular decision making team, you could push back and say, this book cannot be used because it does not have any reflection of the contributions of people of African descent, or for that matter, the Asian population or Latinx or whomever. On top of that, got to go back to Saturday Academy because not everything will be taught in public schools. And often the rule of thumb is we teach to the middle of the road. If you are to the left of the middle of the road, you're probably going to get left behind.
Mhm.
If you're to the right of the middle of the road, you either have to be a self-starter and just find projects or something that keeps you motivated and keeps you interested while they teach middle of the road. So, Saturday Academy, you're in control. Figure out what the curriculum needs to be. You get to select who the teachers will be because it's not board certified. It is Saturday Academy to help your students who are either behind or that you want to challenge, or maybe you want to even teach them about, as an example, one of my favorite heroes in history, Mansa Musa. Well, for a fact, there isn't one school that I can think of that's going to tell you anything about Mansa Musa. But if you have Saturday Academy, you can talk about a Mansa Musa as an example. Or this hoopla about, is Cleopatra Euro-American? Is she Greek? Is she Greek? Is she Grecian? Is she African American? Is she of African descent? You can have those discussions in Saturday Academy, but you're not going to have them in U.S. History 101. So I don't really, it doesn't bother me in Florida what Ron DeSantis does. What it does long range is if that man happens to trip up and become president of these United States, we in trouble.
Florida is a prototype of what they want to happen all over this country, and I keep telling my friends that are in, safe states right now. I'm like, they're trying to implement this all over the country. Like, no corner of this country is going to be safe. I'm in Tennessee. They're trying to do. They're watching him to see what he gets away with, how far he gets away with whatever he's pushing, to see what they can do, and then the next step they go further. So I'm going to play this video from Culver Story. She's an educator. I follow her. I've followed her on TikTok for several years, but she's an educator, and this is her response.
By now, I'm sure you've heard how Ron DeSantis is trying to rewrite African American history and whitewash it. He has made several attempts over the past couple of years to do this, but it's very interesting about his obsession with us, how far he's willing to take it. And I'm also sure that you've heard of Jason Aldean and how he filmed a music video on a lynching spot as if it was okay, and then decided to feign ignorance like he didn't know this was racist. So what is the connection? What happens is when you have someone who has the power to eliminate actual history from the school system, from different narratives, from different institutions, so that people have access to them, you get the ignorance of someone like Jason Aldean, who likes to antagonize Black people, suggesting that you can't protest in a small town or you should fear violence, which is rooted in the history that Ron DeSantis is trying to erase. But here's the wonderful thing about Black American history. It's not just written from the hands of Black people. You get to learn exactly how enslavers and white nationalists felt about Black people from the very white nationalists who actually felt this way. Insert Cotton is King, a pro-slavery argument book by Ian Elliott. Did you know that Gutenberg.org offers this entire book for free? Now, I purchased this book because I have a feeling that somebody just might want to whitewash what actually happened and take it down. So I'll always have the physical copy because, you know, the lies people tell. But if you would like to know exactly how enslavers and white nationalists felt about the subjugation of Black people, you can hear it directly from their mouths. And so when people like Ron DeSantis and Jason Aldean like to lie about what actually happened to Black people and how they keep pushing this narrative with their obsession with us, you can actually go back and reference the words of their ancestors. I think y'all forgot that it is no longer illegal for Black people to read and write. We can now research our own information.
I love her, and that video actually is a segue into Jason Aldean and his nonsense and his lynching video that got pushed to number 1 because actually it came out in May, I believe, and then he did the video shoot on the site of lynching, and so now the racists have streamed it to push it to number 1, basically to let us know how much they hate us. So that's the only reason for that. So real quick, and then I want to get your thoughts on the other side of this. I'm going to play this video from Destiny. Her name is Destiny Stark, and she did a phenomenal breakdown of the dog whistles and the racism of Jason's video, because those people were saying, "Oh, that's not racist. He's not saying, you know." Okay, well, she did a breakdown, and I want to play this video from her. Hold on, I gotta flip this around, and she did a great job debunking it.
Song Try That in a Small Town and the surrounding outrage about it. He made a lot of different claims in that statement, but I'm going to address just one. He claims that there isn't a single video clip in the entirety of his music video that isn't actual news coverage. I'm here to tell you that that is complete bullshit. In fact, he uses multiple clips in the first 30 seconds of the video that are either fake or didn't even happen in America. You see, here's the thing about me. I'm petty, I admit that, but I'm also thorough. And that's a combination that endangers the status quo. But I also have a knack for getting answers to my questions. So here we are, petty and curious with access to the internet. All right, so we're starting off with this scene in the music video. It's a video of someone giving the middle finger to the police. So from the jump, I was just getting vibes that this video was not American. The first inkling that I had was these very specific helmets that these officers have on. I've never seen American police wear with that like ducktail thing on the back. Maybe they do, I've just never seen them. And then there was just something about the way these street lines were, it just didn't look like it was an American street to me. So then I noticed that this person's bag has some writing on it. You can make out some of the letters and it says Emma and then it has EWIG. So I go to Google and type in those letters and I discover that it's actually a German movie. And while sure, someone in America could have a bag with German written on it, that would not be unusual. This at least gave me a point of reference that this could possibly be in Germany. So I zoom in a little closer and see that there's an orange building. So I take my ass to Google and I Google Germany, orange building. And I scour through a bunch of photos until I find one that looks very similar to this building. And I find this picture. It's of a Mexican restaurant called Que Pasa. And this picture was actually attached to a review on TripAdvisor. And lucky for me, they gave the location as Kreuzberg district of Berlin. But how could I know for sure if this was the exact building that was in the video? So there are 3 things I want you to pay attention to. First being this green radial artwork. Second being this railing that has red, green, and yellow stripes on it. And third being this outdoor menu that they have on the wall. So in the video, you can see that they have that same green garage door window that has the radial artwork on it. If you zoom in really close, you can see that railing that has the red, green, and yellow stripes on it. And you can also see that they have an outdoor menu on the wall. So at this point, I was pretty convinced that this was likely the location of this video. Just to add a little more fact to the convincing, these street lines are very specific. And it turns out that it's actually part of the crosswalk. American crosswalks don't look like that. But I just need a little more evidence. So I take my ass back to Google and I type in Kreuzberg, Berlin, Germany, middle finger, police. And I discovered that that video is actually from stock video footage that is for sale on stock photo video websites like Shutterstock, Pond5. Now, in Jason Aldean's video, they didn't use the entire clip because that would give it away that it's not in America. But in the longer clip that's on the stock websites, you can see that it says Que Pasa on the side of the building. So this is, in fact, the building. So now that we've established that that video is not in America, that it's in Berlin, Germany, I just wanted to take things a step further because why the hell not? At this point, I'm invested. So the other thing that was weird to me was no one in this video had any signs or seemed to be chanting or anything like that. And upon doing more research, I find out that this is actually taken from May 1st, 2017 at their May Day festival. So that would kind of explain why there are people standing in the street socializing. This guy over here is drinking beer. They're not at all protesting. So if the consensus of Jason Aldean's video is that he's protecting his small community from rioters and protesters protesting the police, you would think he would actually use footage that was actually from America. You know, it'd be kind of difficult to protect your small town in the middle of America from a festival taking place in Berlin, Germany. So just to shine a light on that propaganda, let's get to the next part, which is a clip of this person lighting a Molotov cocktail. Now, I get the vibe that Jason Aldean's creative team was going for here. It was to instill fear that protesters and rioters are going to burn all of your cities to the ground. But this footage is not even real news footage. The first dead giveaway was just how cinematic and beautiful the actual filmed footage of this was. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if this was actually happening and people were throwing Molotov cocktails, who would have the time to film this video without there being like people in the back or police attacking them or whatever? Yeah, that's because this is not real. This is not real news footage. And I'm going to show you how I figured that out. So I took a screenshot of this part of the music video, brought it over to Google image search. I fucking love technology, by the way, because literally it was the second video. Look at that. It's from a stock footage website. So let's just go and find this footage, shall we? Okay, that's not it. That's not it. Keep going, keep going. Still not it. Still not it. Oh, what have we here? Look at that. It's stock footage from Clever Arts. And look at that. Look at that beautiful stock footage. But that's not all. Come to find that Clever Arts stock has multiple videos from this very commercial shoot. That's right, folks. That footage is not from a protest. It is from a controlled commercial video shoot for the sole purpose of being stock footage that Jason Aldean is using in his video to instill fear in already riled up Americans. And the best part, they didn't even shoot this footage in America. Nope, this company is from Bulgaria. More specifically, I'm probably going to butcher this, but they're from Plovdiv, Bulgaria. So there's some facts for you. So when he claims that not a single video clip in that entire music video isn't real news footage, he's lying. Because less than 30 seconds in, I've already found two. And neither of them were from America. And also, if you still think that that song and music video don't have racist undertones to it, this is just a reminder that he shot in front of the Maury County Courthouse, which was the site of a lynching in 1927, and also a race riot in 1946. So there's that. But yeah, God bless the US. I haven't made it through the entire music video yet, but I already have thoughts on how the footage that is from America in his music video, how it's used in a way that is exaggerated. Like, for example, this is footage from New York City, I believe. And the footage that they use is kind of like a close-up of this dumpster fire or whatever this is. And there's people running around here on this crosswalk. And they leave a lot to the imagination of what's outside of this border here. Because from looking at this, you would think, oh my gosh, that city is probably completely burned to the ground. There's probably buildings on fire and cars turned over and all kinds of shit, right? Well, that's not exactly the case, because I found the stock footage and a further out aerial view. And as you can see, there are no buildings on fire. There's really not even that many people here. And there's a single dumpster fire happening. I've seen crowds do worse things celebrating a sports event. So yeah, even the footage that you're seeing, if it's real or not, it's propaganda. And the fact that he and his team have cherry-picked such specific clips and part of clips and not showing you the whole picture says it all. So yeah, his cult followers can keep coming to my account, keep giving me engagement and hate, and I'll just keep giving you facts. So if you are one of the folks that's been following this series and you've actually learned something and are invested in this content, thanks for being here and having these important discussions about things that are clearly over some people's heads. And I'm going to keep using my platform to talk about nuance and complexity and dog whistles and always anti-racism. So to the people who want to see this content and want to learn, let me know what you thought of this video and let me know what you want to see next. So Jason Aldean released a statement about his song.
I appreciate our youth. Thank you, Destiny Stark, because she did a phenomenal job of breaking that down and explaining it. The propaganda that was that video, Jason Aldean's video. It was just straight racism.
And he knew it was racist when he recorded it.
Hmm.
He's not stupid. He has a team of people who probably helped to write it if they didn't write it all, did the research behind it, um, and released it. So as far as him saying it's not racist, that's just to help sell his music, his song, and I have not followed it. Did you say it made the top 10
Yeah,
or
well,
what?
yeah, it's number one on Apple Music Store, whatever. I don't have Apple. I don't subscribe to them. But I saw updates on it's since this scandal, and
Mhm.
basically the racists have streamed it to number one to make a statement of how much they hate
Of
it.
course,
That's it.
of course. Of course. And quite frankly, nothing has changed. So why would we not expect it to become number one with that group of people? And that group of people proliferates all the time. In when Donald Trump was in office, they talked about how polarized this country was. Donald Trump leaves office and Madam Vice President actually would be so bold as to say, this is not a racist country. I would love to have her tell us her idea of what a racist country looks like if this is not that racist country. Um, but we know better. We know it is a racist country, and we know that racism sells, racism makes money for this country, and because of that, why would you give us reparations when, for a couple of reasons? One, this country would have to admit to its racism. This country would have to admit the foundation upon which it was founded, and that was racist by design, racism by design. So until we get to a place where we are in a spot where we can ensure that the triplets of racism are toppled, dismantled, and never stood up again, we're always going to be out here wondering, just what's next as far as the racism that continues to be perpetuated against us. And unfortunately, we don't have dual citizenship, and we can't jump ship and go to another country. And even if we were able to, most people of African descent, not all, most, would prefer to stay here. So it is what it is. And we've dealt with it all these years. So our resilience says we'll continue to deal with it. But I would love to see us get to a place where we don't have to deal with it. It's it's the same as, gotta say this. About 6 weeks ago, President Biden came out with his 100 actions to stem the tide of anti-Semitic behavior, of anti-Semitism against the people who would become the victims of anti-Semitic actions. 100. His strategic plan has 100 actions for how to stem anti-Semitic uh, behavior. So if that's the case, I mean, can he give us 50 of those same things, or take the same 100 and rewrite them so that now he has 100 to stem the tide of anti-Semitic behavior, and he has 100, against racism perpetrated against people of African descent. And maybe what we need to do is have a mass calling of our 47 million people to say to him, we want the same thing. I don't know of anyone who has said we want the same thing, but we still talk about being the victims of racism.
And that goes into our Q&A part of the program, because if anybody has any more questions, leave them in the comment box here for if you have any more questions for Miss Kenneth, because she knows a lot more. That's why I love doing the shows with her, because of the knowledge that she's able to share. And so if y'all have any questions, and call to action, and what was that again? Repeat the call to action again, especially about that, the hundred points.
So I have to apologize. I didn't think about it until I was talking. But maybe about 3 months ago, and the White House press secretary, you know, presented it to the public, and you can probably go to the White House website.
Okay.
It's the 100 strategic actions that the president came up with to combat and to stem the anti-Semitism against people who would cry anti-Semitic, behaviors against them.
Okay.
It it took some time for, I'm sure, for him to come up with those 100, but you're not saying anything about people of African descent and the racism that we deal with every day. So maybe the call to action is that we have to just blow up the White House hotline. They're 202-456-1111, and demand to get equal treatment. If you can give 100, actions, strategic actions to stem the tide of anti-Semitic behaviors against a people, then why can't you do the same thing and give us 100 strategic actions that help to dismantle racism against people of African descent?
This is the fact sheet.
That's it.
Uh-huh.
To counter anti-Semitism.
And that was for May 25th, 2023. And this is on the White House page here.
And it's crafted in such a way it does not respond to anti-Semitic behavior based upon race. It is crafted so it
Specifically
responds
for them in their community.
but religion. So what they're saying is that of all the religions in this country, they are discriminated against more than any other religious group. So they were very careful not to craft it in such a way that it was race-based, because they're staying away from race-based, because they're saying that as we ask for reparations, they're going to shoot us down and say it's race-based, and race-based anything is unconstitutional. And that also comes into play now that they have dismantled affirmative action, although affirmative action didn't do a whole lot for people of African descent anyway. the greatest recipients of affirmative action were Euro American women who crashed through the glass ceiling and left us still down there wondering whether or not we should even reach for that glass ceiling because it was just shards of glass and we don't want to cut our hands on it anyway.
Mm.
And the other groups of people who they say benefited the most from affirmative action at the collegiate level were international students who came to get the benefit of a college education in this country. But if you looked at our students in marginalized communities and communities of least resources, affirmative action did nothing for them. It did not significantly increase the number of students in those communities who ended up going to college because of affirmative action. So anything that's race-based is off the table. And Jim Crow, Joe Biden knew that when he did this. And he did it in such a way as to say, I got your back, and we're not going to talk about race. We're going to talk about religion. And maybe their religion is the greatest recipient of negative behavior. I don't know. I can't talk about Southern Baptists. I can't talk about Episcopalians. I can't talk about any of that. But what I know is he strategically crafted this so that it had more to do with racism or anti-Semitic behaviors based upon religion and not based on race.
So I'm actually um, putting the White House switchboard number in the chat, and then let me see. So that's the switchboard number for the White House there,
Call them and tell them, you
and
know, you are, and it's the second one also, 4561111 is
right, I'll get ready to post that one
okay.
too. That's
And
the
call,
current one.
blow the switchboard up, call them and tell them that if the president and Madam Vice President can come up with something called the first ever national strategy to counter anti-Semitic behavior, anti-Semitism, then why can't they also have the first U.S. national strategy to counter racism in all of its forms, to topple the triplets of racism? They can't do that. And racism, you can say what you want to say. Is it racism? Is racism race-based? Well, who knows? Who cares? It's still racism. It's institutional, it's structural, and whatever other forms you want to look at it in. It's still racism, and it's still racism is it is being pushed as a threat to the public health of this country. So if eventually it does get to be recognized as a threat to the public health of this country, that is detrimental not just to me, not just to you. It's detrimental to everyone who lives in this country.
This is a human rights issue.
It is a human rights issue, absolutely.
So with that, um, please call those numbers. This is the comment number switchboard here, 1202-456-1111, and we have the regular switchboard, 1202-456-1414. That's our call to action here, and we're going to close out with support. If you would like to support our Thank you, Miss Kitties. I'm so glad to see
Always
you.
welcome.
It's been so long. And you look pretty with your earrings. And look, I'm wearing my Johnny Cash shirt because Johnny Cash wouldn't have liked Jason Aldean.
Johnny Cash was what?
I said Johnny Cash would not have liked Jason Aldean.
Oh, yeah. A whole lot of people wouldn't have liked
So
him
this
either.
shirt here is the one with Johnny Cash with his finger flipping. This is for Jason Aldean.
Hey, look, Elvis might not have liked him.
All right. Oh, the great appropriator. He probably wouldn't have liked him either.
No, I think he wouldn't have liked him. Because at the end of the day, if Elvis was honest with himself, a lot of his wealth came from the songs that he either co-opted, stole, and or got somebody to write for him who happened to look like us.
Mm-hmm.
So Elvis had, he had something to lose by really not giving us credit, and him and his electric guitar. He wasn't the first person to play the electric guitar.
Nope.
Chuck Berry wasn't the first person to play the
Right.
electric guitar.
Right.
What's her name? Sister Rosetta Thorpe was the
Rosetta
first
Thorpe.
person to
That's
play
right.
the electric guitar, and she was the one who came up with the moves. And she was going across the stage on one foot and
So
one
they
leg.
all got it from her.
They all copied it from her. They absolutely did. So not Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley. He might have been mad at the dude also. I don't know.
He probably would.
He probably would have been mad with him too. So
Well,
anyway,
thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you.
my pleasure.